if you're going to put on a show on this scale, it's got to mean something. It's got to actually have something at the core of it beyond just a form of entertainment. And I think that's what Bono's political work, and I have to say the band's political work, because we all really are behind him and have been involved.
And pay for me to do it, it has to be said.
So to me, that is the ultimate form of being relevant, really. For a while, I think the concern was just that Bono would become more famous for his political work than being what he really is as a singer in a hopefully a great band. But I think that balance, it's always moving. It's found a great sort of center point on this tour, I think.
The show, this tour goes from sort of punk rock, Vegas, to political rally, to gospel show, to, you know, hopefully some kind of transcendent out. But we weren't sure until, you know, until our first night if it was going to fly, and there was a lot of people very worried about it, because the first rule of rock and roll is do not be boring. And
don't get too worthy, you know.
And the band are always, you know, watching my back, actually. It's not that they're watching their back. They're watching my back, and they just think, you know, I can just, as if I'm going on a bit, as I can just, you know, Larry just starts up the drum.
Bono is equally at ease, performing on stage and playing a key role in high-profile campaigns like Make Poverty History and next month's global music event, Live Aid. But not everyone is comfortable with a rock star trying to sway political opinion in this way.
Rich rock stars talking about poverty is hard to take, even if you are one. And it's strange that musicians are in this position. And it's obscene even, but we are, and we are artists, as there were painters, as there are novelists, and as there were film directors, and there are very wealthy film directors. It does not take away from their ability to comment on an issue.
I don't feel embarrassed about our success, why should I? But just so happens, we as a band, and particularly Bono, feel that there's actually some stuff we can do with our position.
We do find ourselves constantly caught by this. Where people just say, well, what are you doing? How dare you, you know, how dare you ask people to do this? And if you know...
But we're asking governments.
Yes,
I mean, that is a different thing. This will not be sorted by people emptying their pockets. This is strategic and can only be worked out at a governmental level.
And do you feel that Live Aid and the sort of descending of perhaps hundreds, perhaps millions of people on Edinburgh for the G8 summit is the kind of culmination of what you initially started as the One campaign? I mean, do you see that this year is everything coming together?
We will move on after Live Aid. It's not a silver bullet for me. In Europe, it is, and it should, terrify leaders. You know, I know Schroeder's making some difficult decisions at the moment about committing to 0.7%, under 1% GDP, you know, to be part of this historic thing. And I think he'll do it, but he'll only do it if he feels a groundswell. And that's why these concerts are important. In America, we're really preparing for the next election. We want to have political muscle in the next election, which is not going with your cap in hand saying, please give more money to poor Africans. This is an issue you can run on, Senator.
People say, well, yes, you'll stand up there and you'll say we should make poverty history, and there's no one who'll argue that we shouldn't. You know, there's no one who'll argue that a child shouldn't have food in its mouth.
It's a placard, make poverty history.
But Africa is also one of the most corrupt continents on Earth. You know, the Africans have actually done terrible things to themselves as well as...
one problem, I would say, on the continent is what you're speaking of.
So, how far are you going to take the campaign in terms of making sure that that doesn't mean that a bunch of African dictators can lead, you know, slightly more splendid lives?
It's the most important question. We don't want to be redecorating presidential palaces across Africa with a debt cancellation. Uganda, for instance, is an example. President Museveni, a lot of people have issues with, done some things in the corner of the country there that are frightening. But he had a thing called PAF that was insisted upon. where the Poverty Action Fund, which was, he ring-fenced the monies freed up by debt cancellation into a separate account where people could see where they were going, what schools they were building or not building. And it's one of the reasons why there are 3 times as many children going to school in Uganda as a result of the debts that have been cancelled so far. So it is possible, and people should not think any of this increase in aid is not tied to serious conditionalities. And am I getting boring now? I have to be careful with the band.
You're not being boring.
Politics.
Just finally, the new single, City of Blinding Light, starts with the lyric, you know, I knew more then than I know now. Is that a sense that kind of keeps you going as well, a feeling that...
One day we might get it right.